Well, welcome to WolfePak Wednesdays, episode 9. Computer security in the oil and gas industry has been in the news lately with the ransomware attacks on the Colonial Pipeline. This week, we're going to talk to a couple of security experts. Joining me is Farshad Abasi, Chief Security Officer with Forward Security. WolfePak Software partners with Forward Security to secure our WolfePak Anywhere environment. So welcome, Farshad.
Thank you.
Excellent. And also joining me is Lailey, Chief Operating Officer with WolfePak Software. So Ryan, welcome back to WolfePak Wednesdays.
Hi, everyone.
All right. Well, Farshad, since this is the first time on WolfePak Wednesdays, we always like to pick on our first-time guest and just learn a little bit about you. So give us a little bit about your background.
Sounds great. My background, I lived most of my life in Vancouver, BC, up in Canada here. Went to University of British Columbia. I actually have 2 degrees. I was doing the pre-medical thing at first, and I went into life sciences. I have an animal physiology degree and all that type of stuff. But I've been hacking a computer since I was 13. My first computer was an 8-bit computer that my father got me, and I didn't have any video games, so I started writing games for it, and then I started reverse engineering other people's games and extracting audio video stuff from them and all kinds of fun stuff that you do when you're in high school. And, that really piqued my interest in both software development as well as security. And later on, when the life sciences thing didn't work and medical school did not accept me, I decided that I already know how to program and I'm really good at it. So I should probably go back and revisit that whole computer science side of things. And I went back to University of British Columbia, got a second degree in computer science, and lo and behold, I went into the software development field right in the midst of the .com era. So I came out of university and .com was booming everywhere, and I ended up doing web development for a number of years. Built applications using ASP and Java and JavaScript and all that fun stuff. And after a number of years of building different types of applications, I did a lot of software development for about 12 years after, leaving university. And throughout that time, I got a lot of experience with security. And through whether it was a piece of software that I was building that had something to do with security or something that I built got compromised. And eventually I pivoted into working with developers and teaching them how to make their software more secure and how not to repeat the mistakes that I made. I've also been teaching security. I've been teaching at a local college in British Columbia called British Columbia Institute of Technology. I teach network security as well as information security that I've been there an instructor for about almost 20 years now. And so you can say that security is a passion of mine. And for the last 12 years of my career, I've been working with teams of all shapes and sizes and help them put the right security controls in place to make sure that their software is not compromised or the bad things that happen to my, the products that I worked on don't happen to their products.
Well, that's awesome. And I can tell you on behalf of everybody at WolfePak Software, we're glad that the animal sciences biology thing didn't work out given all the help that you guys have provided for us. Farshad, as I mentioned in the intro, our industry really got a wake-up call with the ransomware attack at Colonial Pipeline. We've even had, sadly, some of our WolfePak customers and all of which were running WolfePak within their internal network that have suffered some ransomware attacks. And, for our viewers, they're technologists, but they're also into oil and gas accounting and they're oil and gas industry experts. But can you just provide us with a high-level description of what a ransomware attack is and maybe some of the mechanics?
Absolutely. So ransomware is a type of malware, right? There's all kinds of malware. They come in all shapes and sizes and forms. But this particular malware uses cryptography to make your data unavailable to you, and they ask for a ransom. So essentially what they do is they're able to push this malware onto your computer, and then that malware will encrypt your data. And when your data is encrypted and you don't have the key, you won't be able to access your data. Now you're essentially blocked from using your data. And if you pay the ransom, then they'll give your data back to you, hopefully, right? Now, sometimes they'll threaten to publish that data, right? They'll say, hey, if you don't pay our ransom, we'll go and publish this. In Canada here, we have a company called Life Labs. They deal with all of our medical lab records and all that kind of stuff. And they got breached, and they got ransomware. And they were basically saying that if you don't pay the ransomware, we're going to go publish all these people's medical records, right? Now, problem with that is that you're put in this really awkward position, and oftentimes companies go and pay the ransom, but that's a whole other story. But essentially, what you want to do is be in a position that either not fall victim to it in the first place, not fall victim to ransomware, or when it happens, the blast radius or the damage is minimized. There's a famous figure in cybersecurity called Bruce Schneier. I mean, he's written books on cryptography. He's very well known. And a number of years ago, that's what he said. He said there's a famous quote from him saying that the best security is one that fails well, right? If you've designed your system so that when things fail, everything doesn't blow up with it, then that's a good system. So assume that something will go wrong in the future, but put all the right controls to minimize the impact of that failure, essentially. But yeah, that's what ransomware is. It's just a type of malware that's really focused on one thing, is making your data unavailable to you, and then you have to pay the ransom to make it available to you again.
Got it. No, that's really helpful insight. Is there anything that our customers can do or should be doing today to help prevent their data from suffering a ransomware attack?
Yeah, so there's two things you can do, right? So there's one stuff is preventative, right? So let's prevent this from happening in the first place, right? Why is malware ending up on people's computers, and why is malware locking things up? And that can come through all, the malware can enter the system from all kinds of places. Email is the most common one, right? People receive an email and they open it up. It's got an attachment. They're not careful. They run the attachment, and the rest of the story. We've all heard it. That's almost happened to me as well. It's a really challenging situation. And in those cases, if you're using certain mail providers like Microsoft's Office 365 or G Suite, they filter. They have software that is intercepting the email payloads and looking for vulnerable malware attachments and things like that. So one way is, if you're not using one of those platforms, go ahead and do it. If you're using your own mail system, there are third parties that you can subscribe to that'll scrub your mail and look for those types of things, right? Another place is installing software on your users' desktops where, just general malware protection software. So if, they're trying to open something up that they don't fall victim for it, that gets tricky in environments where you don't have control over the employees' laptops, right? In the modern day environment, a lot of companies are allowing people to bring their own machines. So there's a BYOD situation. You have to be really careful about that, because if you're assigning the computer to the user and you lock it down and you put all the malware detection stuff on it, that's great. But when they're bringing their own device, then you don't have control over it. That device could be shared with their family members. They could be, their kids could be watching, playing games on it at night and doing all kinds of other things. And malware can be introduced that way. And then, if that machine is also used to access corporate documents, if a family member goes and downloads something that has malware in it, then that malware can pivot and access all the corporate data and lock those as well. So it's really, it's one has to take a real strategic approach and give all these things consideration. If the employees are bringing their own laptops, then the company should at least install some software like mobile device management software that can detect those types of threat scenarios and have some control over that machine so that you're not completely blindsided by it. And then those are preventative things, right? Like making sure you've got malware detection and endpoint protection and email malware filtering, those kinds of things. But also education goes a long way, right? Like companies should have at least in their process an annual security awareness training so that their staff members are aware of these things and it's top of mind, right? And an annual thing may not be enough as well, and they should augment that with ongoing training as well as training that's delivered in an online format that's easy to deliver and it's gamified and it keeps those things top of mind, right? Now, second, these are all great preventative controls. Also, when things blow up, you need to design your system, as Bruce Schneier said, you need to minimize the blast radius, right? You need to design it so that it fails well. So let's say you've done all the training, you've got all the malware protection, you've done all those good things, but all of those things fail eventually. This is just the way it works. Never, as a security professional, we're told to tell clients, security is never 100%, right? Like you can put all the controls you want, someone will find a way to breach your system. So what you need to do is when that happens, do you have backups? Do you have, how have you designed your system? Is everything going to be gone? Or you're like, well, you know what, that's fine. You got malware here and, they got ransomware, but guess what? I've got a nice backup that's offsite. I can restore all my systems and do that kind of thing. So make sure that you have those other controls as well in place.
Very good. Now that's very helpful. Ryan, can you describe some of the things that we're doing in the WolfePak Anywhere environment to help protect against ransomware attacks?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start off with, every year we conduct a SOC 1 Type 2 audit and go through all of our different procedures and security procedures and get that audited. But probably more specifically and more importantly, we're working with companies like Forward Security to do code reviews and to do security assessments and to lock down certain areas of the application that might be a vulnerable place for an attack to happen. We do things like, as Farshad mentioned, one of the primary ways of getting a ransomware is through email. So on the WPA environment, you can't receive an email in WPA. So you can't actually have one come in like that. So we're doing things like that, and we're doing work on attachments and what kind of attachments will we accept, and really making sure that we are being preventative and blocking the typical things that can happen, but at the same time working at training with Forward Securities, our developers, to be aware of the current threat models and what's happening in the world, so that we are looking at our code constantly in our code reviews and making sure that we're addressing any of the new ways that hackers are being able to get in and malware is being able to be introduced.
Got it. So the things that we're doing in WolfePak Anywhere, can we extend that to our customers that choose to run WolfePak within their own network environment?
Well, we lose a lot of control in the on-prem environment, because really it's about the security protocols that are put in place in the corporate network that WolfePak is being installed on. So if you install WolfePak on a wide open network, somebody's laptop, as Farshad mentioned, that's being used at home and being connected to email and things like that, we have no control over what's being introduced into the program or into that network, right? So it really falls on the customer's capability to have all of the preventative security in place and monitoring to make sure that the entire network, not just WolfePak, but your entire network, is secure. So yeah, we lose. And customers will lose quite a bit of the active monitoring that we're doing in WolfePak Anywhere if they don't have it set up for themselves.
Got it.
I think you said something that segmentation is really important, Ryan. It's their responsibility to do that and making sure that their network is appropriately segmented so that people can't pivot. I see so often companies that just have a flat network and anyone from the company can access devices anywhere else, and that's not a good position to be in. Things should be not only segmented, but the right access control should be placed so that only the services that need to talk to each other are allowed to do so. And then, of course, trying to follow the zero trust model is the best. But at the minimum, when they're deploying your product, sort of a shared responsibility. The product comes with certain controls, and then beyond that, they need to be configured in such a way to prevent the attack. Another thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned that WolfePak is taking care of a lot of the security in the application. That's a really important thing. That there was I know a company whose application was used to push ransomware into their clients. So what happened is the attacker had injected the ransomware into their code. And then when they launched their product, they sent an email to thousands of their clients. Hey, look, our new version of our application is up. All these people went to the new version of the application, and then that malicious it was basically a pop-up. It would come up, and then it would entice the customer to click on something, and it would download ransomware on their computer. So they were using the software to attack it. So if you are taking care of your software, then your software cannot be used as an attack vector to push ransomware onto other people's systems.
Sure. That's great. Well, guys, great discussion. Farshad, if folks want to find out more about Forward Security, where can they go?
Well, our website would be a great place, forwardsecurity.com. And also, we're pretty active on LinkedIn, so check us out. We post pretty informative articles on a regular basis, lots of really interesting topics covered there, from application to cloud security and otherwise, and always something new to learn.
Well, very good. Well, Farshad and Ryan, thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully everybody in the audience got got something out of this conversation about security, security is definitely something that's top of mind and something that we're partnering with folks like Ford Security to make sure that we engineer into the new WolfePak Anywhere environment. And for everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. And that'll wrap up this week's WolfePak Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.